GigaBash is an arena-based fighter which sees huge kaiju face off against each other, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake. On first glance it looks similar to games such as 1991 arcade classic King of the Monsters, 2002's Godzilla Destroy All Monsters, or even 2014's Godzilla game for the PS4, and it's just released on the Nintendo Switch. Will it show her its worth? Or should you say no thank you? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. The story here revolves around the kaiju, or titans as they are known, and each segment of the story mode focuses on a different one. You'll learn about their backstories and what has awakened them from their slumber via the animated comic book style cutscenes. So in terms of gameplay, GigaBash is essentially an arena fighter, with the arenas made up of whole cities or environments and the titans battling it out through the buildings, trees and natural features of each area. The game is split into chapters when playing in story mode, and you will play as a number of the titans as the story progresses, taking on other titans in the aforementioned areas. You have a few different attacks, beginning with the basic weak attack by pressing Y, a stronger attack by holding Y, and a grab by holding A when your opponent is blocking. You may also block, as well as being able to dash and jump, and each titan has a special move specific to them performed by pressing X. As well as this, you can also grab buildings or vehicles to throw at your enemy to deal damage, as you would expect. You'll have a health bar, as will your opponent, and there is also the opportunity at times to power up to your Giga form, which will make you practically invincible against a smaller foe, but beware that should your opponent activate theirs, they will be equally unbeatable if you haven't activated yours. Collecting Giga Orbs or dealing damage to them when they are in this state will fill your Giga bar, allowing you to transform and even the playing field. I did like that at times you'll be up against more than one titan in story mode, and to make this even better, it is all against all, with the AI controlled titans happy to attack each other, which added a lot to these encounters. Victory in the chapters will earn you a ranking and XP for your profile level, and leveling up will earn you rewards such as unlocking background music and concept art. Completing a titan's story will unlock new characters and the next story segment, of which there are 4 in total. Now, whilst the gameplay is relatively fun in single player, there are a few negatives that hold it back from moving on to the next level of the fun factor scale, in my opinion. Firstly, the camera doesn't pan out to cater to your movement across the screen, which makes it awkward to traverse the lands at times, and worse still, it will actively follow your opponents at times, meaning that you won't be able to see what you are doing at all. Quite why they chose to do this is a mystery, as surely you should be the focus of the camera's attention, with a marker indicating where the enemy is should you move too far away from them. Secondly, as interesting as it sounds to battle it out against giant kaiju, destroying all that stands in your way in the process, the titans just look way too small in proportion to most other objects when not in their Giga form. Half of the buildings are bigger than you, the other half are not too far off, trees seem huge, and even tanks and other armoured vehicles are at least a third of your size. The titans almost dwarf in comparison to their surroundings. This wouldn't be such an issue if picking these large objects up and throwing them at your opponent felt a bit more satisfying, but I honestly found that trying to pick objects up or even perform the heavy attack just slowed me down to the point that I'd take serious damage. I was much more successful just using the light attack option constantly, but this took a large part of the fun away. There are a few difficulty spikes when playing too, with some enemies, even fairly early on, able to defeat you before you've even got going. However, on the flip side, any titan whose special move is a projectile makes the game too easy. There are definitely some balancing issues here. A lot of issues highlighted there, I appreciate that, but it doesn't make this a bad game. It's more about how, like a few games before it, it manages to just miss the mark in terms of making you feel as powerful as you should in this scenario, and it affected the gameplay to a degree for me. Outside of story mode, there are also local and online multiplayer modes to try. There's a free-for-all mode for up to 4 players, as well as 2v2 and 1v1 battles. Whilst I feel that some of the above issues are negated to some degree in multiplayer, owing to the other humans' inputs being just as slow as you at times, but the camera can still be a problem, and there were performance issues when playing online, although I'll touch on that in more detail in the next section. That being said, I could see this being a good deal of fun if you had a core group of friends to play with regularly, and I will say that I managed to find a 4-player match online almost instantly, so hopefully the online player base will be quite well populated. To round out the game mode, you also have an arcade mode for single player, an onslaught mode which is a wave based affair, and mayhem which is a collection of minigames for multiple players. Gameplay has some key ingredients to make it a good amount of fun, but a lackluster story mode means I'd say multiplayer mode would have to be your main intention in order to get the most out of it. It gets 13 out of 20. Controls do the job well enough, but the camera isn't always as helpful as it should be. They get 14 out of 20. In terms of the visuals, the character models and environments have a 3D look to them, and whilst there are a lot of the same assets used to build up each area, there are a decent amount of them, each with its own theme to keep repetition at bay for a while. The real highlight though is the monster designs, which, whilst borrowing heavily from franchises such as Ultraman, Gundam or Toho's Godzilla characters, at least do so with a measure of love that allows some of the creatures to really stand out. I loved the goggle-eyed look of the Gorongon creature that looked like some of the variations of the Godzilla costume over the years, and how some of the designs really had that feel of a person in a costume. Some fare better than others, but on the whole, it's a fun and varied roster. What doesn't fare so well at times is the frame rate, which will take a dive when the action hots up, leading to stutters when playing, and this was especially noticeable when playing online. It's a shame, as online does fix a number of the issues I had with story mode, but exacerbates another of the game's issues in the process. Audio wise, the music is not particularly standout. There are no ominous themes here as some of the characters make their entrances, with it instead used to fit an action packed theme and raise pulses as things play out. It does this well enough, but there was not enough punch to convey the devastation taking place on screen, at least for me. Visuals give that classic kaiju feel, but an inconsistent frame rate hurts things, and they get 14 out of 20. Audio is perfectly acceptable without being as forceful as it should be, and it gets 15 out of 20. GigaBash costs £20.69 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. As I mentioned earlier, the story mode includes 4 campaigns, each focusing on a different titan, and the whole thing can be finished in about 4 hours, although there are also the unlockables to go for, and I must say I did like it that you do unlock some of the characters as you go along. A nice throwback to fighting games of old. To be honest, you really would have to want to put some time into multiplayer, either online or local, to truly get your money's worth, so do bear that in mind. As well as the base game, there is a DLC pack which contains 4 Godzilla characters, which is a brilliant coup for this game, but you will need to purchase this separately at about £9 or again your regional equivalent. Had this DLC been included with the base game and perhaps the price raised by a couple of pound, say £24 all in, it would have been so much easier to recommend. But at nearly £30 if you want to buy that DLC too, this becomes so much harder to do. It's a shame because I've seen the Godzilla characters online when playing against other players and they do look great, but it all tots up to just be a little too expensive in my opinion, and value gets 12 out of 20. To conclude, GigaBash has a fair number of the elements needed for a game such as this to succeed, but crucially misses a few others that would have made it an instant recommendation for fans of kaiju monsters or mass destruction in their video games. The story mode is pretty bland owing to a few issues, and whilst the multiplayer fares better, the online has some performance issues which mar this too, and this does need to be taken into account. It's still a good time, and 4 like-minded friends could definitely find this game fitting into their regular play roster, and thankfully the online does seem fairly well populated at the moment, but it's not quite the king of the monsters that I was hoping for. GigaBash gets a SwitchUp score of 68%. Thank you everybody for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick this game up, or any other game of course for that matter, you can get your eShop cards via our website switchup.gg. You'll get yourself 5% of your purchase back as cashback through our SwitchUp coins scheme, which you can then use against a future purchase, and until the end of August, if you enter the code SwitchUp, you will also get another 5% in straight discount. There's also a link down there to PlayAsia if you're looking to import any games. Again, use the link, use the code, and you'll get yourself 5% off of your order from there. A quick thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.